The first thing we have to do is grab a pressure bleeding tool and prepare it for pressure bleeding. We start by filling up a couple quarts of fresh, typically .3 brake fluid, and then we'll proceed to pump up the pressure chamber so we got pressure to bleed all the brakes. Cylinder and remove the brake fluid, all the dirty brake fluid. What we're going to do is refill it with fresh brake fluid, so once we start pressure bleeding the brakes, we're pushing clean fluid throughout the whole system. Once we have the master cylinder basically empty, we're going to add new fluid, and we're going to find the right adapter for the pressure bleeder, one that fits on the master cylinder. We'll secure it onto the master cylinder, and once we open up the valve, we want to make sure that there's no leaks at the master cylinder. One of the things you notice, I have a fender cover on the fender of the vehicle. Brake fluid is very caustic and it will eat paint, so you want to be cautious not to get any brake fluid on any of the painted surfaces of the vehicle. Next, we proceed to go to each wheel and open the bleeder valve, and the fluid will come out. I like to use a clear hose and a bottle so I can catch the fluid. I can see the fluid as it comes out in the clear tube, and I can tell when it changes from dirty brown to a clear fluid, and I know it's clean. The reason I use a bottle is because I don't want it to spray all over the car, and then I have a mess to clean up, and if I don't get it cleaned up too well, it'll leak all over, and the customer will think that they have a leak and want you to check it over. And if you have to check it over a second time, you're working for free. The bleeder valve is a pretty small valve, so one of the things that we're going to want to do is torque it when we're done. It's got a very low torque. It's going to be somewhere in the inch-pound range. You don't want to break it off or you're going to get yourself in trouble. After you torque it off, you always want to put the little rubber cap on it, and that'll help keep it from corroding. What we're doing now is we're just going to proceed from one side of the car to the other side of the car, and what you want to do is follow whatever steps that the workshop manual says. Could be in a Z, backward Z pattern, could be rear to front, the other side of the rear to the front, multitude of different patterns, just whatever the manual says. Once you go through all the wheels and the brake fluid's all clean, you should have a good pedal. You want to make sure when you're all finished with this that you pump the brake pedal up and you got a good solid brake before you try to pull the car out. We're releasing the pressure on the master cylinder. We don't want this thing to like explode with pressure all over. Like I said, we want to keep brake fluid away from different paint or plug connectors on the engine. Any of that could cause corrosion. So the last thing I do is I suck a little bit of the brake fluid out so I'm at the max full level. I don't want it over full. I'm going to put the cap on it, make sure it's secure. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it off with water. I'll keep it all clean. It'll dry off on my test drive, and then it won't look like I have any leaks.